this works. The stream is not dropping any frames apparently, which is a great thing. It was dropping a lot before. I had several possibilities for why it was, but hey, doesn't seem to be so now. So as you can sort of tell, we're going to be playing the World of Blaze mod. Hello, Martin Smith. How you doing? That over there, that to there a little bit. Okay. Single player new game. January 1936. I'll do okay. I'm doing quite well, and LP is here as well. Very good. Arno, who will probably be showing up momentarily, wanted me to play Italy today. Sort of early starting action with Eritrea and Spain and that type of thing. We're going to go with I am ready to play in that I'm not, but what the hey, we're going to do it anyways. Okay, currently it looks like it's going to be the main thrust. From the north, down in there, Eritrea. Hey, Uncharted, good to have you here. Yep, I was going to be playing some other mod, but Arno reminded me that it was really only set up for multiplayer, which that was my original interest in it. But so I needed to scramble, and since you had poked me again, we're going to take a look at this, and we're doing something a little different in that we're playing Italy, a little different than just more Germany. Okay. So we have that. Highways. Okay. Industrial. I like the Ethiopian development. Prospect for oil. My understanding is that they did limited prospecting for oil, but they never found any in the wartime period. I wonder what would have happened had Italy found oil in North Africa. Would it still be Italian today? Or would World War II have forced them to give it up? Anyways. Italy, geographically, shall we say, the difficulty of holding Libya is not nearly the difficulty of holding Algeria or the French. Higher population here, I do believe, and much more rugged terrain, so easier to do a guerrilla war kind of thing. And De Italia is here. Yes, we're going to be playing your country. And Aries here. Very good. So yes. So I've often wondered, because that's a realistic what if in history. What if Italy not only found oil that was there? I mean, this is not like dreaming of something that wasn't there. And they were sort of prospecting for it, but they never did find it. And Yeah, if you're looking in the from 1922 time frame, there's plenty of time to develop, um, you know the drill the wells. I think they're mostly over in this area. Drill the wells, do the pipelines, get them out to the sea, and get all that infrastructure developed. And now, if you're talking about finding it in 1940, there might not be the time to do that as the war rushes on. Hello, Danielle from Italy. Good to have you here. Or Daniele, I guess. And the Germans wouldn't have to work for my supply. Oh yeah, it would have been. It would have been early enough. It would have been a massive thing. Now, the myth of the oil in World War II, and one of them is, well, if Hitler just took Baku, everything would be fine. Couple of problems with that. One is there's Baku, and right approximately over here, well, on Brandenburg, is Berlin. Okay, see the problem here? Now, I think there were some pipelines for the Soviet Union. I also know the Soviet Union had a fair amount of relatively small ships, but they were ships plying the Caucasus, as well as a rail link here coming up to supply oil into the Soviet Union. Some elements of that could be turned in Hitler's favor, but there was a little canal somewhere along here, I do believe, that connected the Caucasus. But it's, like I say, things that you and I would consider ships, and they would be considered ships, but they're damn small. And so their carrying capacity compared to larger ships carrying them out of Iraq and Iran and then coming around through here to the Suez, there's much more infrastructure, shall we say, capable and shipping oil there versus shipping oil out through here to here up. And so you can see it's not that easy. If you just get Baku, everything is fine. No, that is not the case. There is geographical problems. Two, and this is probably more important, well before the Germans get anywhere near Baku, I think in either in 41 or like early 42, they plant so much explosive around Baku that they're ready to blow the whole oil infrastructure. If the Germans get anywhere close to it, the Germans get down into, somewhere down into here. They don't even really get Grozny. They do get Maikop, which has some oil. So Germans do get this. I don't know how intact this oil is, the infrastructure. Now, of course, if they can get that out to the Black Sea, and that's a lot easier to get out, but also a lot less oil. You're transshipping out. But I don't remember, because I watched an hour-long documentary just on the Soviet plans to destroy, and not just like plans as in, well, this is what we got to do. No, they actually wire the thing up with dynamite or whatever explosives they were using, high explosive. They wire the whole Baku complex up. So to blow the oil wells in such a way to create oil fires. And of course, I don't know if you know this, but the best way to put out an oil well fire is with explosives. You blow it out. Literally, you blow it out with explosives. But set it up to set a huge oil fire that could have, I don't know on the structural settings of the oil, it could have actually, the fire could have gone underground. There is, in California, there is a, somewhere here in Southern California, I forget, there's sort of a low-grade oil field around here that has been burning for like 50 or 60 years or longer, that is underground. You just sort of see a little bit of smoke coming out, and there's no way to put it out. And there's just enough oxygen getting into this sort of like low grade oil. It's hardly even, I don't know, worth drilling that much. But now with fracking, it might be more. But I forget how it was, but how it got, the fire got started underground. And so it's not a huge area, but it's an area that just, you can't do anything on it because and there's plants growing above it. It's not like that, like you can't walk around it, but there's just this noxious smoke leaking out through the ground, and there's a fire. Raging would probably be the wrong term, but a fire that just, there's no way that we know how. Got to deprive it of oxygen somehow, but there's enough oxygen underground with whatever it's on fire. So no one's figured out, and they're not even really trying to put the fire out. But you can get a whole oil field under fire, which, yeah, Stalin would be very willing to just blow it all. Hello, Vault Boy. Blow it all and make it incapable of ever being used again, at least with the technology at the time. But I don't know whether there's enough oxygen down there for the oil, even if it gets hot enough or whatever to be able to burn, because you need oxygen to burn the oil. Logistics, getting out. Yeah. What else? And I wish, hope, before we'll get into this. Our king was corrupted by normal oil. The oil of liberty will be administrated by the American Oil Society. Look at the naval map mode. Okay, I will in a moment. Remember Germany saying something along the lines of the Soviets did a good job destroying the Kazar oil fields. Yeah, I don't really remember that. Thinking about the underground West Virginia coal mine. Well, there may very well match Dush, something like that, but there is one out here in California that is an underground like oil field of some sort. TIK had part of a video about Italy, or if Italy found where it was, are the refineries located? If, yeah, the mainland, you need tankers. Oh, absolutely. It's vulnerable to bombing. The Americans in the oil. Am I right, guys? Yeah, we know oil. My family's been involved in the oil industry for a couple of generations, so I sort of know some of this stuff from family connections. Yeah, now, so most all war games that I know don't take into account. And there was some plans for sabotage, I believe, for Grozny, but I don't know how complete it was, but it was definitely Baku. Now, the British had also thought about bombing Baku during the time period in which the Germans and the Soviets were allies, and the British were knowing that there were trainloads of oil coming into the Reich. Now, just because there's trainloads of oil getting into the Reich, like I was, saying and supplying the German war effort, that's presuming presuming the rail lines are generally intact, and two, if you look at the railroad map of Russia, a lot of the freight would probably be coming up north here, past Stalingrad, maybe even up to the sort of sort of like a greater ring around Moscow, and then the main sort of rail hub is Moscow. Not to saying there isn't connections through here this way. In fact, I know there are connections, but I don't know the traffic levels. Just because you have rail between point A and point B doesn't mean it's going to handle a lot of traffic necessarily. And how, effective Germany would be getting this out, and since they couldn't even take Stalingrad, that's sort of what I'm saying is I think, and I have to look at a rail map to know, but I think most of this rail goes up via Stalingrad before it's going too far this way. So, yeah, at some point, presuming it, the oil well fires, which can take a long time to be put out, and you really don't need so much pumps at the Baku, at least in the olden days, because there's enough pressure underground that it just wants to spew out. I think that's still happening, still artesianing during World War II era. So I think nowadays they have to pump out the oil. But yeah, you could get it back into going, and you could get this set up, but it might take a year or two. I mean, to really get it going again and whatnot. So now, of course, Germany taking it denies its use to the Soviets. So that's maybe not a war winner, but that is a massive benefit to Germany that slows up Soviet tempos of operation, because you already have the huge amounts of war materials being shipped into the Soviet Union. To also need to ship in oil or gasoline would be a whole nother headache, whole nother difficulty to keep the Soviet war machine operating. So there's a lot of stuff going on with that. Thank you, Arno, for greeting everybody. So yeah, now, like I say, and I don't know if I watch some TIKs or Ticks or however you want to say his name's videos. And I respect his research. He does good research. But, and yes, it's damaging to bombing and everything else. Germany can control the Mediterranean with Italy's help. Germany has enough air power. Germany can control the Mediterranean. That is not the difficulty, quite honestly. The whole Rommel thing was just, hey, yeah, just keep Tripoli from falling for a while. Not that really important. While we go in and crush the Soviet Union, we'll be done with that, and then we'll see about, it was an afterthought for Germany. But if they knew that there was a significant, maybe not enough oil at the time to fully supply, though I think Libyan oil could, if properly exploited, could supply the Axis, the European Axis's war needs for oil. Trust me, that they would have held off and not gone after the Soviet Union to secure the Mediterranean. There were advocates for doing so prior to invading the Soviet Union, just helping the Italians out, sending panzer divisions and those types of things, like they did. But also remember, people, they sent the Africa Corps to play around here, and they get out to here to El Alamein. Once that's defeated, and only once that's defeated, and then of course, along with when that happens is basically the same time you're having the Allied landings in North Africa, the torch landings. Only did they do the Panzer Armee Africa and send it to Tunisia, instead of sending presumably those, because there was some escaped German units that were sort of rebuilt up here. But most of the Panzer Armee Africa and most of the Italian army that was sent over here is newly sent from Italy. The Italian army that was here in El Alamein is destroyed, is functionally destroyed. Yes, there are fleeing units out there, but it is so unmotorized and fuel is so limited, and the Germans kind of scoop up what fuel they can and save themselves, that most of the Italian elements that were involved in the El Alamein battle are destroyed, either in the second battle of El Alamein, because the first battle of El Alamein is the assault on El Alamein by the Axis, Germany and Italy. The second battle is Montgomery's counterattack. And then you have Montgomery's slow pursuit, but it's still enough of a pursuit that had he done a vigorous Patton-like pursuit, he would have destroyed the Afrika Korps as well. But the Afrika Korps mostly gets out, but it's just, it's lost a lot of its fighting vehicles. It's lost most of everything. And so what's rebuilt is more or less fresh. Here, Panzer Armee Africa, along with a huge amount of Italian forces. When they lose Tunisia, they lose about the same amount of soldiers the Axis does as they do in the Stalingrad disaster. So they only build that up late, after the Americans are here and trying to break out of Tunisia. Had they sent some of that effort in, and I say some of that effort because you have part of Rommel's problem is here the supply with coming out of Tobruk and to here. So you dump in a huge number of Italian and German troops and mechanized forces. It's just going to be more supply problems. But Italy owns roads. Why not get into Cyprus? Another parachute operation. Yeah, Germany could pull off another parachute operation come in here, be very threatening to push out of, Syria. There's going to be a lot of problems here. Germany can do this. Germany with Italy and Germany together, Italy sort of providing the Navy, Germany supplying the Air Force and the ground force. They can do this. They can take this, and this is a bit of a question, but probably they could take Gibraltar. And that closes the Mediterranean, and then, hey, this is relatively safe. You can mine this up pretty hefty, especially if you don't plan on using it a lot. To keep most submarines from getting through. Obviously, you can close the Suez, so subs aren't coming in. You get Egypt, you get here. It's basically out of air range, and yeah, you can get it if you know to do it. If you do it soon enough. If you do it before America's here in strength, because America landing out here. Do you notice they do the Casablanca landing? They also do the Algiers and the Oran landings, because there is almost no infrastructure between these areas, and a German Panzer Corps or Panzer Army or whatever that is well supplied down here can probably fend off a significant American armored force, or Anglo-British, or Anglo-American, I should say, Anglo-American armored force here, if they've truly closed this down. But Hitler just does. His mindset is all up here. It's not down here. He doesn't understand this. Churchill does to an extent. He understands this. Churchill really gets a lot of this stuff. But this isn't the soft underbelly of Europe, but it is the underbelly, sort of the armored underbelly that you can poke it wherever you want and do so successfully, but you can't land here in Thessalonica and drive a huge Allied mechanized army up to Yugoslavia, because it's just not the infrastructure to do so rapidly. The Germans are going to be able to move in here, fight in these mountains like they were fighting, in the Italian mountains, without the abilities to, we're stuck here, do these, Anzio, in the earlier Naples landings, do the landings, you can't just constantly turn the flanks by trying to push up here. And so, you have to battle your way in, because even coming up from the south of France is a rather big battle and would have been much harder than it was had they not already landed in, Normandy and been pushing in here, had the Germans just been reinforcing down into here. That's really tough, but it means you have to defend all of this. It's massive. Hopefully, all that was interesting to you guys. The biggest effect of finding oil in Italy would be pre-war storage, which cripples for the entire war. It may have had. Yeah, it would have been a big. Churchill would have we're with you about that. So your plan, Italy having highlighted real life issues they face. Yeah, well, we're gonna look at Italy just to do something a little different than Germany. Now, I don't see develop Italy's fourth shore here. That was a major element of Italy doing, particularly in the 30s, but even 36. They started a little before 36, and but really sort of went into overdrive 36 through to the start of the war. And the fourth shore is the Libyan shore. You sort of get, I don't know how they number it, but the three east, west, and south coast of Libya, or of Italy, sorry, is the three coasts of Italy, and this is the fourth shore that is Mussolini. But this actually sort of, to some degree, goes back to prior to fascists coming to power. Italy, but under the fascists, they developed a few small, I think we call them towns best, but they were meant to be sort of the beginning of city centers, very sort of modern architecture, small, the most advanced, technical developments today of electricity, plumbing, all this. Model town centers with some housing around them, set along the Libyan coast. To attract and bring in Italian settlers, and then the Via Balboa, which is built here as the highway. Balboa is the Italian general marshal, whatever, that it's named after. He's sort of in charge of the construction project. So they're really trying to infrastructurally, in the late 30s, develop Italy. Hey, Scooter. So, and I just don't see here, Campania, this infrastructure, Institute Industrial Reconstruction, nationalized failing steel industries. Okay. Now, most my knowledge, again supplied by an Italian, most of the island fortifications that I know of are done with Germany's help as things are falling apart in Tunisia. So this really sort of happened, to my knowledge, much later in the period. Not that it's wrong to do it, but it's specifically set up as a German. They bring in some German experts and some German industrial production capabilities or fortification capabilities after the building of the West Wall and starting of the Atlantic Wall. Come down and start doing some stuff in Italy. But I guess we will do Italian highways. Get that started. Well, let's start recording an episode here. I know I've been talking a lot, almost an episode's worth, but welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here, and we're taking another look at World Ablaze mod, and we're going to be looking at Italy. Playing it, they have definitely a better national focus tree. I know we just clicked on something here, than the base game does. Not quite as developed in Germany, but then hey, what national focus trees are developed as much as Germany's? But a lot of things here to deal with. Including support the nationalists. A lot of good stuff coming over time. We're going to be developing Italy's highways. To the best of my knowledge, because you're using the term highway, Italy really doesn't do a Autobahn style of development. They have I'm going to butcher it. I know, sorry, the Italian, others butchering the Italian, but the Miglia, or whatever, the 1,000-mile race that they run yearly around this sort of area here. It's a road race. It's like 1,000 miles. At one point, they cut it down to about 500 miles. A road race, and it's definitely on the main roads, but I don't quite think it's what we would think of as an Autobahn style highways. But definitely developing. Italy was very much just starting to develop its automotive and infrastructure, including its roads in a modern sense at this time. So let's look over here. Okay, well, we need to do some of the basics. Get some of these going. Let's look at their Air 3. Okay. Not yet ready for the naval bombers. Italy, the one thing that they're really known for, and they hold some of the cups for a long time until about this time period, and Supermarine comes in, is seaplanes. They do a lot of seaplane racing. Well, let's get this going. Now, Italy's artillery is pretty bad for the time period. they're using a lot of actual World War One artillery in mainline divisions. They just don't have. Yes, we'll do this. Just don't quite have the production infrastructure to build even enough guns for their artillery, for their divisions. They really, really struggle with that. I guess nothing to do there. Researching there. These are all. Wait, no, because yeah, it was mostly known as a CV-33. At least that's how I know it. Integrated infantry support. Decisive. Yeah, these are mutually exclusive. Advanced squad tactic. Which one is the worst possible? That's what I think I should pick. Mass assault. No. Reinforcement rate breakthrough. Large front operations. Squad tactics. Planning now. Planning something. Reinforcement rate, supply consumption down. Breakthrough. Well, this is probably the best one. Well, I guess I'll take the best one. Hello, Vented and USA Man. Yeah, I don't know the aircraft all that well. I would definitely recommend licensing German equipment. Well, that would be a smart thing, and it would have been very smart of the Italians to do so in World War II, but the Italian manufacturers basically said no to that. Well, okay, I mean literally World War I guns as in left over from World War I, because they didn't have the production capability to build new guns. So yeah, they've been through one World War, might as well use the same guns again. Hello, Sandpiper. How does World compare to Black Ice? Well, we have one of the devs for, or the main Uncharted dev, Uncharted, the main dev for World Ablaze here. It's trying to be very historical without overcomplicating things. I guess that's how I would put it. I don't think that I would call World Ablaze better than Black Ice. But I think World Ablaze has a sort of really good reason for being, if you will, in that they're not trying to overdo things, trying to do more details on things. Okay, so that's how I would sort of explain how it compares. Okay, well, one thing that I've learned with this is we need to have lots of artillery. Okay, now, another interesting thing with Italy, the Italian army. Italy is made up of mountains. Its northern border is basically a mountain range. It does have this central plateau, and yeah, some areas that aren't too mountainous. And then it has a mountain range down the center of it, and Sicily and Sardinia are all mountainous. So basically, I mean, you can always prove, when you say all or every, I know I'm going to be wrong somewhere, but basically every infantry division has integrated mountain guns, which are lighter weight, lighter guns than standard artillery. this is because of two reasons. One, the aforementioned mountains that they know they will be fighting in. Now, they do have alpine or Appin, how do you say? Uh, Alpini, that's it. Alpini type troop divisions that are specifically mountain divisions. Of course, they have mountain guns, but the standard infantry divisions also have mountain guns. So one is because they know they're going to be fighting in the mountains with standard divisions, and two, they're cheaper to make, and the ammunition's cheaper to make because they can't make enough artillery for their regular to fill out all their regular divisions. So might as well make some of this cheaper mountain artillery, and the ammunition's cheaper too. And the ammunition's smaller, so it's easier to move around because we don't have that much trucking and that kind of thing. So yeah, Italy is fairly weak in a lot of this and fills their gaps with some of this stuff. Okay. You have two lines of regular artillery, and I'm seeing that. I'm seeing the old guns here, and I'm seeing what looks to be a second one here. So we're going to also increase this. I just have, because I think we can see your production cost 3. Let's look here. Outdated, yes. Well, production cost is the same. I don't know. I'm going to keep both going just to make sure. Now, the Fiat 3000 is an Italian remake. I mean, it's not like none of the parts are compatible, but an Italian remake of the. Do I swap to that? Probably should at this stage. Of the FT-17, the French one, except it's fast. It is max speed 3.8 kilometers out. Okay, should be. I don't know how that compares to, say, other tanks, but it should be faster than just about anything going. Tank-wise, including early World War II stuff. It's like a hot rod. The Italians, Ferrari doesn't exist yet, but man, they put an engine in that thing, and they make them fast. Where all the other copies are slow. Okay, well, let's click here. Let's move over to the CV33, which that was a really big hit, but we'll do that. What's its speed? Oh yeah. I think the other tank, because if this is 7 kilometers an hour, that other thing should probably be more like 12 kilometers an hour. It was like super fast. Later tanks weren't quite as fast as that. So yeah, it looks like an FT-17 in slow, but no, not really. Okay, let's do support equipment. Okay, so we have some of that. The spread speed stat. Okay, well, I don't know where you're getting the record for it, and I'm just going off of memory, but I do know the Italian Fiat was externally looking like the FT-17 that it was copied from, and everybody, the Americans make a version of it. The Soviets in the early days get a hold of a copy and start making versions of it. So many versions of the Japanese make a copy of it, basically. The Italians just super speed the damn thing up, I know. Almost unusably fast. Okay, now we have a lot of needs of importation here. Okay, iron. Well, because we need the iron to make the steel, I guess. So well, I don't know if we can trade with the U.S. 3 civilian factories, and for coal, yeah, we'll get some from German Reich. Hopefully that will produce steel that we need, or do we need to build more factories for more steel? Been a while, like obviously since I last played this, and I do remember that the steel mill was a thing, and so if we get our more production, we'll see if that fills the gap, or if we need to build more steel. Okay, we do have authorized gas attacks. Guess that's for invading Ethiopia, which I believe the Italians did do. Okay, Italy's not. I don't know if we should be doing that now. Okay, let's really get our war going down here. And
Pronto all'azione. Pronto.
oh well, let's put all of this under commander here.
Pronto all'azione.
Okay. He's going to be operating some panzers, so I guess we can go with him. Let's go with the theater commander. Yeah, I guess we'll be fine for that. Okay.
Pronto, signore.
What do these divisions look like? All right. So they're going to support that attack.
Pronto.
These guys are going to support down here. They're going to support there. And do we have air? Yes, we do. And they go after. No, I don't know Italian airplane models at all. Okay, we have no airplanes in our reserve. Wow. See if we can fly these guys down here. We might as well support some operations a little better. If I remember right from this, there was talks for Italy to make Panzer IIIs, which have been better than any other tank. The Germans did not want the gun to be fitted to Italian. So it sees the entire thing. Actually, I think it's the opposite. Again, I always blank on names. Things. One of the people that helped me develop my Third Reich mod for Hearts of Iron 3 really helped a lot with the Italian development, being an Italian. Germany eventually sends a bunch of Panzer IVs and Panzer IIIs down to Italy that basically only really end up getting used against them because they're used in rebuilding the formations that are destroyed down in Tunisia, sort of the home, the home depots troops are used to make the formations up. The Germans want the Italians to make, and I don't know specifically on the Panzer III but they want them to start putting various German designs into production. Mussolini wants them to put German designs into production. I think it's a combination of two things. One, I don't think the Italian manufacturers had the technical knowledge to make a Panzer III, on the one hand, and I'll explain that in a minute. And on the other hand, they did not want to become effectively taken over by German industry. Because if they start building German models of tanks or whatever, aircraft is another thing. Now they do, I know, assemble, I think it's just assemble, about like 300 Stukas that are assembled in Italian aircraft factories. But it's just all the bits and pieces are all, sent down in trains and are assembled locally. And assembly work is a major element of something like an aircraft production, of the time that it takes to put them together. So if you're getting all the pieces, sent in on railroads, putting into an assembly factory, that definitely helps take some of the burden off of Germany for production of the aircraft, and gives Italy, I think it was well more than 100, but I think it was like 300 or so Stukas that Italy flew that were Italian made or assembled. Because I don't think they were making like the engines or whatever. And so but if you're coming in, you're going to end up having German production advisors in your factories, and they're going to, one degree or another, become sort of an arm of German production. They were worried about this. Now, to go back to being whether they can make it or not, if you notice, all of the Italian tanks, up until the end of the war, or Italy's end of the war in 1943, are made with riveted armor. Why? Well, it's because, and everyone knows welded armor is better, it's because they don't have the technology to weld armor plates like that is commonly set up. I'm not saying that they didn't have any of the technology, they didn't have anybody to know how to do it, but to get it widespread and get enough people in there to do welding thick armor together is more difficult than welding some, two thin pieces of metal together. And Germany was, and also the US, but Germany was one of the nations, especially in the 1930s, was like the best at welding together thick steel armor plates and having them maintain their, armor rigidity and all of that stuff. So I'm just guessing without, my hat's off to TIK. He does a lot of good research, but to a point, in looking at his work, compared to what I sort of do or think, is he looks for real world evidence, and this sort of comes from, I think, his German mentality, and presents that real world evidence, where I'm trying to analyze the evidence that I come across, including his videos, and make presumptions based upon the information that I have. So I don't think, if you're doing it right, riveting together, because you have to punch holes in the steel plates to put the rivets through and whatnot, is going to be inherently faster production than welding or casting your tanks together. And you can look at the Soviets get going with welding pretty quick, and also get into casting fairly heavy. The U.S. both casts and weld tanks, because you have both the welded tank holes on the Shermans and the casted tank holes in the Shermans. And the U.S. throughout the war doing both welding and casting in large amounts. Britain does get to the point that they're welding some of their tank holes together, the thick armor, but they never get to doing it skillfully. The British, late war, that you have to have that front vertical element on the tank because we need to have that machine gun hole poke through it, for the radio operator / hole machine gunner, be able to poke through it and shoot there. So although we slant some of it, we have a vertical face in it. See that to the end of the war, and that's what the production people tell you. And you can't do it on angled armor. You know, the people who examine enemy armor can just point to a Panther tank and go, yeah, but there's the Germans. They've got their angled hull and their, machine gun poking through the angled armor. Why? Well, because the Germans are able to take a flat piece of rolled steel armor that, given whatever, because there's several different heat treatments on it. There's a really good U.S. analysis of, I read more than a year ago now, that the U.S. Navy did of different nations' armor plate for ship. The U.S., Britain, Germany, Japan, that they got a hold of sections of armor. I don't know if they included some other countries, and fired solid shot at them and see how the different treatments of armor, for roughly the same, 6-inch piece thick of armor, how do the different treatments work in dealing with shells, both straight on at the vertical and at an angle, And so the Navy was doing some armor testing for the different methods of armoring. Well, so the Germans are having, the front of the Panther tank is an excellent example of it, having that angled piece of rolled steel armor that they're then punching a hole through it and then welding in the dome or whatever you want to call it that the machine gun ball mounts through it at an angle and doing it in a good production line. The British production capabilities are going, no, that's too much, that's too hard. And so they're doing theirs with they're putting a vertical piece of armor there that they're punching a hole through and putting it through. And so it's some of the production techniques. And so obviously it can be done because they can just point to captured tanks and go, see here, they did it here. And eventually eventually it goes away because they get rid of the whole machine gun on tanks. But we can point to some of these things to see the different production styles and capabilities that most people don't take into account when they're looking at World War II and why things are done. And so I think part of that is also why Italy does not want to license German production, because it's more than just getting a set of drawings for like an engine, a tank engine, and then just making it that engine instead of whatever Fiat engine that they were using. Most of Italy's tanks are made by Fiat Onsando, which is Fiat working with Onsando, the artillery company that I think was also making the armor plate, but it's mostly the Fiats. Fiat is doing the engines. And so they do not want to become, if you will, a puppet of German industry. Okay, so we have slight excess here, but we still, with all of that, so we're producing, I guess, all the coal and, all the steel. We have okay, let me restate this. We have all of the resources need for our steel factories, but we are negative 27 on steel. So, let's buy some from Germany. Rather have our factory needs go to Germany. Also, to give you, everybody, since we're looking at Italy now, January 1936. Okay. Well, and I'm sorry, I don't remember the date. Late 1935, Italy is an alliance with France and Britain. And Italy is worried about this, a bit of a history talk. Italy is worried about German expansionism. They are very much worried about, and Mussolini is worried about German expansionism. I believe there may have been a visit by Hitler down to visit Mussolini already once, but it doesn't go so well. Or maybe it happens a little later. I'm sorry, I don't remember the exact date of this. And so, because by 36, you're already seeing a lot of pressure. Hell, the Nazis already assassinated the prime minister of Austria in, what was it, 33? But a lot of pressure to integrate Austria into Germany. Well, this sort of part over here, and this, maybe a slight little bit of this, but I don't know how much of this, was all part of the old Austro-Hungarian Empire, and definitely that would probably be a majority German-speaking area, at least some of that would be. And to some degree, the sort of Trieste area is also a bit more German-speaking than Italian at this time. And so Mussolini is worried about this, and this is his primary sort of concern. And he's starting to feel, this is mid-late 1935, he's starting to feel maybe my ally of France isn't going to stand by me, because you have Germany taking over, or taking over the Saarland over here, and getting rid of the French finally from the Saarland. It's not remilitarized yet, like it does. This is not yet the remilitarizing of the Rhineland. This is just finally getting the Saarland back, and this breaks the Versailles Treaty already. And there's already been other things that are breaking the Versailles Treaty. And so he's worried about this. And then, Mussolini the second wants to build the second Roman Empire, if you will. And later in 35 still, he invades Ethiopia. And his allies, France and Britain, are a bit upset by this. They don't seem to like the idea of Italy just picking up a random un-European controlled country that's just laying about ready to be picked up somewhere. So they really pushed Italy not to do this. Italy, there's the Hor-Lavar negotiations that is pushing Italy are pushing Italy and Haile Selassie to accept an agreement that will carve off chunks of land, because I didn't make any preparation for this, chunks of land from Ethiopia and give it to Mussolini. But there would still be an Ethiopia of significant stature here, unoccupied entirely by Italy. Not like the Versailles situation or the Vichy situation later on. Truly just changing the borders kind of thing. And you have to realize with Ethiopia, especially out here in the Ogden province, they're calling it Somalia, this is a deserty area that is primarily Muslim. Eritrea is also primarily Muslim. And there are various tribes in this area. And when I say tribes, I mean like groups of 100,000 people or more that are ethnically different than what we would generally call mainline Ethiopian, and they are generally Muslim, and they hate the hell out of Haile Selassie and the Ethiopians as the nationalists, the nationality as we would think of it. And so these people are like, Italy's coming in? Yay, great, happy days are here again. And so, because Italy is actually, especially I think both Eritrea and Somalia, are fairly well liked as colonial overlords go. And so they're sort of like, yeah, we're going to get the Italian overlords. Yay, they're going to kick those damn Christians' butt and support the Muslim tribes, because the Christians have been mean to us. Ever since before we were Muslims, they've been mean to us, because Christianity is older here than Islam. Hell, it's even older than Christianity, because before that they were Jewish of a type. Because they're very, you know about Ethiopian Christianity. There's a lot of Judaism woven into it. So yeah, the Horlevar negotiations fall apart, and through the League of Nations, they sanction Italy, or put a trade embargo on Italy for all League of Nations, all member nations, to do no trading with Italy except for, and wait for it, I'm going to let chat, what is the one commodity that is not embargoed for Italy? So just so that you know here, I don't know if Uncharted is still here. Italy at this time should be able to trade with oil. Yes, you got it. That's the only thing that they're allowed to trade with Italy is oil. Everything else is embargoed. And what is the one thing that would probably get them to stop invading Ethiopia? Oil. So they don't embargo the oil. But all the rest of these trades, okay, yes, USA Man's coming in second with that. Should not, for League of Nations nations. Unreleased, I did make Third Reich events for Hearts of Iron 4. So you still have trade opinion as a factor here within this, and it's mainly kept because I sort of asked them to keep it. They were thinking about getting rid of it. And so I coded up an event in which gives every nation, except for a few, such a bad trade opinion that they will not trade with Italy. And the only nations that I allowed to trade with Italy were nations not member states of the League of Nations. So the United States was still able to trade with Italy. Germany was able to trade with Italy because they've all left the League of Nations. So now, Mussolini has already been worried about German expansionism, like I've been talking about here, while we're before the invasion of Ethiopia. So he starts out, and realizing, especially with the Saarland, and this is even before they remilitarized the Rhineland, he's worried about Germany moving in here. So he sets up the Three Powers Pact, which is Italy, fascist Austria, and we'll call it nationalist Hungary. They weren't really fascists. Not the government, not Horthy's government wasn't fascist, particularly at this time. And it's these three powers. The Fatherland Front is firmly in control in Austria, which is a fascist party, modeled very much along the lines of Italy's fascist party. And the second major political movement in Austria, I would say, would be the National Socialists. They want German unification. There are socialists and other leftist type parties going on to some degree in Austria. But so I believe it's in January or February of 1936 in Venice, they signed the Three Powers Pact as particularly an anti-Hitler, anti-German defense pact, because Italy, by that point, has been embargoed by its former, now basically allies of Britain and France. And even if there was still that alliance still holding, Mussolini is very worried about German expansionism and the lack of France to okay, well, we pushed into there, good, to support Italy in a defensive operation against Germany, willing to go to war. And Mussolini knows it's much easier geographically to fight Germany north of the Brenner Pass in Austria and wherever, and send Austrian troops to help defend Italy than it is to allow Germany to come in along this border and potentially threaten to invade again to get back old Austrian territories, because Mussolini is aware that the little guy with the mustache was born somewhere over this sort of area in Austria. So he's wondering how much he's looking at Austria. I like it. I think Uncharted has done a very good job with World of Blade. I am still going to say I think I like Black Ice better. But Black Ice isn't everybody's cup of tea. It gets a little deep in the weeds at times. I never understood why Mussolini wanted Ethiopia except maybe access to the Red Sea. Okay. Well, Scooter. Okay. At the start of... When Mussolini comes to power in Italy, he already controls Somalia, or Italian Somaliland, and he already controls Eritrea. They're already controlling this, and of course they're already controlling Libya. Well, Italy wants... Oh, and they're also, of course, controlling Rhodes, a couple other little islands around here as well. Mussolini wants to rebuild the Roman Empire idea. I'm sure he can fantasize about rebuilding all of it, retaking, Rome, what Rome had in Britain or whatnot, but that's probably not realistic in his mind. Okay, good. We pushed into here. Now, okay, they're all running about. Let's have some armor. These are both... Oh, well, this isn't... Okay, now this would be a good... Well, we can. Let's push into there, and let's push into here. Just to tie these troops up while we push into the desert. Hey, Gustav. In Hearts of Iron 4. Well, I have serious problems with Black Ice still. But I still sort of kind of think it's... Personally, I like it the best. Like I say, I have some serious problems with it. I've rage quit over it not terribly long ago. And you don't want to play... right now, Black Ice for Japan is fucked up when it comes to China. It's just fucked up bad. It's a hard question to answer. I mean, I can answer it clearly in Hearts of Iron 3, which would be Hearts of Iron 3 Black Ice with all the submods. That's the best thing going out there, period, for me. But you've got to like to deal with details and minutia to want to play Black Ice. And that isn't for everybody. And like I say, I have some problems with Black Ice as it is. And so, get back to Scooter's question of why going after Ethiopia. It looked easy. You have a nation with zero ability to build make modern ammunition. They of course can't make modern weapons of any sort. I'm using the term modern because they could probably bang together some muskets or something and make some, black powder or whatnot. But they're not making modern weapons. So, and how big a budget are they going to have to buy things like aircraft? And they get some aircraft deliveries during this time period. There's actually a black American pilot who comes down and is a bit of a mercenary fighter pilot or whatever you want to call it. And I think does okay flying against the Italians. But they're just a few people doing just a little bit. And so he thinks it's going to be an easy sort of like, hey, yeah, we go in and kick some butt. And now that we're going to attack it to there. Against primitives in Africa. In China, it was taken slow. I just finished the game and I believe won the war by 40, so while compared to the base game, it wasn't too terrible. Okay. Lo Gang Ho. Well, I'm not sure. A while ago, we got done playing a multiplayer Black Ice game. And some very, very weird things happened, and maybe there was some bug or whatnot that just made literally And we had German expeditionary, we had Italian and Romanian expeditionary forces alongside Japanese forces, and they pushed us out of mainland China. And when we sort of quit, we were sort of holding out in Korea, but they kicked us out of Manchukuo and kicked us out of everywhere. Yeah, it did not go well. Oh, yeah, no, yeah, Total War. Oh, yeah, no, I hate the Total War mod because of their unhistorical stuff that they're doing. Um, I really liked it at start, but like Ho was saying, the extra fortifications that they're sticking everywhere and stuff, that just got me to rage quit. Have you watched an oversimplified video of, and if you have, did you like it? What are we talking about? That I don't know. Thank you, Arno. The question is, have you watched an oversimplified video? You have. Sorry, I don't get the question, oversimplified video. Because I'm talking about my experiences playing the games, not my experience of watching videos about them. Oh, then I don't know if I have. Doesn't ring a bell right now. Oversimplified as a YouTube channel. Okay, Eric, thank you. I don't know that I have. I'm not remembering it. Maybe I have and I just don't remember it, but I'm not remembering it at the moment. Let's just delay one division, hold here, and I guess support that attack just so we don't somehow get cut off. Yeah, you can post a link in chat, Eric. That would be fine. I try to at least follow most, history YouTubers, but I'm sure I'm not finding all of them because YouTube doesn't always recommend everything that I or others would like. Thank you, Juice. Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, these guys are now free to move, so we're going to move the armor unit that way. We're going to take 2 infantry divisions and follow there. And I think we're going to punch in here with the other 2 if we can. You can be yellow. I'm mostly just wanting to hold their movement up while allowing the rest, particularly the armor, maybe to overrun those militia divisions. Okay, that sounds fun. I like to hear other people's takes on history. So I know I don't have everything right or know it all. God, no, I don't. So what I love to do is finding out new stuff, reevaluating what I think I know, all that kind of thing. Because I really didn't know until doing some research about how much Italy was working for an anti-Nazi alliance set up at this time. And so the big consequence of the world's reaction to Italy's invasion of Ethiopia is to start to push, just start though, to push Mussolini into Hitler's arms. Because you've got to remember, in about 1936, you could import oil for some more fuel. Well, we've got, yeah, we could, but you see, right now, I have not that many factories available. I don't know. Yeah, it'd probably be good. Let's do it with Venezuela. Let's just get a little bit more coming in. Build up a more base. Not going to do a lot right now. Remilitarization of the Rhineland, yes, worrying. And abandons the naval treaty. Okay, so these guys are now here. These guys are pushing there, green, green. Supporting, overrunning, pushing. These guys up here. Okay. You attack there, and you support that attack. This way we'll link up here in a bit, hopefully, with how they're pushing. That will take 2 years to run out of fuel instead of just 1 year. Oh, oh yes, oh, we should have been doing this before. Sorry, I forgot, people. Fill these up to make sure that we make out as effectively as possible the ships. Hello, Darren. How you doing? Let's speed this up a little bit. I'm playing just a little slower. It starts to normal because of wanting to manage our invasion here. Yeah, what I'm hoping to do, and I don't know that this is the best strategy, I'm hoping to build up a couple of more civilian factories. You know, 4 more would be ideal, but these are going slow. To be able to pay for the imports of things like oil. Oh, good, 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 good. Okay, you've made it into here. Let's take our little armored divisions, our fast divisions. And yes, let's move in, and then we will move in one infantry division following this attack, and the other one support the attack so that we don't get cut off. Maybe we'll push on to Addis Ababa and end this thing. Of course, I am not using any of my Navy or any of those other assets around, just the Air Force that is down here, which I think is enough to positively affect most battlefields. I think we were really, you know, an actual,
Pronto,
really
signore.
considering it about 6 weeks earlier for Overlord. I don't know if I have like a good
Ordini?
date for that. You know, for what we think of as Overlord. Now, of course, the Americans, sort of being Americans, wanted to do the direct approach and push in 1943, you know, straight into Europe. But Churchill kept them from doing it smartly, I think.
Pronto.
We'll move you over that way now, just in case these guys start moving. Okay. Well, yes, these guys will move into here. And let's do you and
Formazione.
you to support that.
Formazione.
You and you attack, pin these forces, keep them from moving effectively. Okay, well
Pronto,
now
signore.
they're defending there. Okay, no, that's fine.
Attento.
That's just a spoiling attack. Keep them from coming down, reinforcing this attack here, or this defense. Not enough manpower or equipment. Yeah, I think it's, yeah. Light infantry equipment and support equipment. Yeah, no, we just don't have enough. All right, let's... No, what am I doing? Yes, right here. Okay. Okay. Invest in the Daniele Industrial Complex, research bonus to industry, or focus on rural industrialization and civilian. Focus on centers of industry. Okay. So this would get 4 more civilian factories sooner. 35 days. This would gain us base stability of 5%. Well, the stability ain't that. And Calabria down in the south of Italy would get us another 4 civilian factories. And Sicily, 4 civilian factories. And down here, reinvigorate the capital. This looks like a bunch of our, excuse me, manpower, but really get us lots of civilian factories and some military. Or we can come down here, which research bonus, 9 civilian factories. 9 civilian factories. Synthetic research and education. Run research slot. Okay. 9. Oh, well, okay, no, these are 9 civilian, 9, or, yeah, 9 civilian, 9 military. Civilian, and some military. Prospect for oil, which we could do, but it'll take 70 days, which would be very helpful having that oil. Institute for Industrial Reconstruction. That would get us some of our steel that we need. Okay. Three military factories. I think if we go this route, we'll get more stability, we'll get more civilian factories, which hopefully will mean we can build more military factories over a long period of time than just 9 civilian and then all these military and then more research. So I think this is the correct approach. 35, 35, 35, 35. So we can get all that done, or at least down to here in about within the year. That'll take a while. That'll get us prospect for oil, but I'd rather get some of this going here now, I think, because we can. Yeah, let's go for this. I think by analysis, and I don't know what would be historical. Right, honestly, I just don't know. If I may ask, what do you do for a living? Well, I guess I'm a YouTuber. Do video games. Watch some comedy and marvelous shows and movies, yes. I guess you might call me a YouTuber, though it's not much of a living as in profitable, but okay. Well, what we're going to do is one division is going to support here just so they're attacking from more than one division, and I think it's that division is going to support this division also so they're attacking from more than one. Okay, fine. Yeah, I know I'm not training any new division because I don't have enough supplies on basic stuff like rifles. Don't want to train new divisions with. Okay, armor units are moving into there. Okay, well they're gonna be. Well, let's make sure they get the orders to keep moving on as fast as possible. Support that attack. Very, very little. Extremely little in the way it comes of income. When we use strike, don't quite understand. Sonoas? Sorry, don't quite get that. Well, we're going to end the episode here. But we're going to continue the live stream for sure. Yeah, don't listen to Arno. He's just poking you. I want to thank everyone for watching. Thanks for liking the videos. If you haven't already, please do so. And of course, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Love to see you all around more often while we play games and talk about history. See you next time for even more Hearts of Iron. Okay, guys, let's make a save here. We're going to continue to make another episode. Well, I'm not rich at all. Yes, we know you're a moderator, but now what should we do with the government yet? Add Ministry of Labor. Going to take more political power than we have. Yeah, we don't have enough political power as it is right now. Okay. Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 with my continuing look at Hearts of Iron 4 with the World of Blaze mod, and we're playing as Italy. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can also like the videos. Love to hear your comments you post below. And you can also follow me over on Twitch if you like, so that you can get those live streams when I'm over there. Yeah, Arno gets a sword in the... Yeah, I mean, he can chop you guys up if he really wishes to. But then again, he's Dutch, so, you know, keep that in mind. Okay, well, these guys are retreating, so let's see. Yeah, let's not push into the hill or to the mountains right away.
Avanzate.
Send in these fascist types.
Attento.
These guys over here can support that attack. Britain right now is not at war with us, so we don't have to worry about them at the moment. We're going to deal with the economic... However, I don't know. That is, as Uncharted knows, is one of the areas I have disagreements with him. So, I know with the German national focus tree, there are some things that alleviate the developing economic problems. My disagreement with him is, I think they're more long-term negative consequences than he does. See, I'm hoping to get in here and get some more factories, because hey, this is where we've got their capital.
Pronto, signore.
Hello, my friend from Russia. How are you doing? I'm doing rather well. Good day. Focusing on rural industrialization. Yeah, I know. We have a disagreement over it. It's fine that we disagree. I guess to a point. And I know Germany better than I know Italy during this time period. But I just don't know enough of the problems. Because we see during this time period, 1936, the U.S. is in a depression. There is basically deflation going on. Not inflation, deflation. Inflation is when prices go up. Prices are going down because people are growing, they have an orchard somewhere and no one to buy the fruit, or not enough people to buy the fruit because the people don't have money. And the person who has an orchard, and these orchards, especially things like the fruit economy in America, are often localized, especially back then, and are not as industrialized right now. So you could have an orchard that, you got, 50 trees, 100 trees, whatever. And, a sort of a extended family can handle most of it most of the time on their own, meaning they don't have a lot of employees. And it may not be their only means of income for it, but, pick the fruit. whether it's apples or, lemons or oranges or whatever, depending geographically where you are or something like that. And then they go, well, hey, somebody buy my fruit. Well, people don't have money to buy the fruit. And they're going, yeah, we worked all these hours to pick this fruit. Well, it's either just going to go rotten, or the wife is going to can some of it, put it in cans or jars to, if it's apples, they can use it to make apple pies later on. And they would do that anyways. But they can't sell it very much. So, well, we'd rather get half of the normal cost for the fruit than not get anything and have it go rotten. So prices fall. There's deflation during the Depression in America for many, many things. People just don't have the money. Okay. Now in Germany, and this is all going on with more and more of a government stimulus economy going on with the New Deal that FDR is doing. And so he's doing the NRA, and it's not the National Rifle Association, it's the National Recovery Act. He's doing it with the, the CCW or CCA. It's, where they're, the government is putting together work crews to do things, build bridges and such. Not there are up here in the mountains behind LA. There's a few bridges, concrete big construction bridges. They're just out in the middle of nowhere, across the valley. There's no roads connecting to either side. Just because they decided that they were going to put a road through here, so we need to build a bridge, and there's maybe a dirt trail to these things. They never built the road. They built the bridge. This was all part of the before World War II's situation going on with the New Deal, and they built some of these bridges, and they're not too huge, but they're significantly big, that connect no roads to nowhere across a canyon, that there's no roads even leading up to them. They're maybe down sort of in the bottom, and there's a trail to sort of get the supplies up to where they built this bridge that was someone surveyed originally to make not an Autobahn style highway, but sort of a one lane each way, because these are like one lane each way kind of bridges, roads that they would call highways, yes, but they're not like what we call sort of a modern freeway or the Autobahn or whatever, but continuous roads going through that never got built. But somebody, we need the bridge here, so they, it's going to be built, and we need the bridge, so they have the people just to build bridges. So just make work projects. And if you look at where some of these roads, I guess we're supposed to go, there's nothing to go there. Not even mining things. And it's sort of really weird and spooky as why they're out in the middle of nowhere. Because you get up into these parts, not down, this is LA proper, but in LA County or some of the counties out there, there's these sort of abandoned bridges, and there's just maybe 5 or 6 of them that never connected to things. And there's that kind of stuff going on during this time period. And Tennessee Valley Authority, where they build hundreds of dams in Tennessee. And then these are not things like, at the time, I think the biggest dam in the world, Boulder Dam here, Hoover Dam. It's actually sort of have both those names at the same time. It's the Hoover Dam, but it's the Boulder, Colorado River, whatever, but it's called by both names. That's also going on at the time, but this is a big, huge, massive dam. These are smaller dams, but are all set up to do local electrification, have electricity going on in Tennessee Valley Authority. I think it does maybe go a little bit out of Tennessee state, but it's the TVA. This is all going on as a government works project to create a lot of electrical power spread around. The idea is to be cheap and that it's water driven. This area doesn't freeze over in the winter, so it can have, if you do the dams and the lakes right, they will flow all year round and generate electricity all year round without having to burn coal, without doing a lot of other expenses. Just sort of maintain the machinery, and you keep that going. Now this is all going on during a depression in America. This is not basically 1940 when we're starting to ramp up the U.S. say we, but the U.S. is starting to ramp up for selling arms to the European war that has started. That is different. That only really starts getting the U.S. out of its depression in 1940. And okay, so you have all this problem. And the reason is the Great Depression is because of government interference with what is going on with lots of regulations, is why it becomes, not why it happens, but why it becomes such a Great Depression. But that is not what Uncharted talks about. Okay, so Institute of Industrial Reclamation fixes. Very good. But that is not the same type of stuff that Uncharted is talking about with the, at least I'm more experienced talking to him about the German economy and building for, government spending money to build for the war industry as causing economic problems. So they're both government, and there's different styles for sure between the U.S. and Nazi Germany, but these are very much government interventions into the economy, and massive government controls go into the U.S. economy. Some stuff is good. Not all government controls is bad. I'm not one of these people, just because you have government controls, it means it's bad. But there's overregulation in the U.S. economy because it's all done at this scale, and it has been since then. Because, again, just for people's information about America, is the federal government can only regulate interstate commerce. Okay, it cannot regulate within the state. Well, there's one Supreme Court case during this time. Somebody in some part of this world here had sort of like a backyard orchard kind of, and don't think of it as like somebody's little yard or garden, as they would say in England, that has like 4 trees in it. I'm saying it was something that they had a and I don't know if it was an orchard or a farm growing plants that you not from trees, but because it may have been other sorts of vegetables or fruits or whatever. But I think it was a fruit or vegetable type garden that they were doing it for commercial activity. And FDR's regulators came in to regulate this thing. And that goes to a court case, and it gets all the way to the Supreme Court. And I think it's maybe the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration or something, that is trying to regulate this. And they're saying, well, it is possible. Let's just say this is in outside of Pittsburgh. It is possible that the produce made in this small sort of single family thing here, it is possible that this might get bought by somebody, and it might be sent to the state next door. It is possible. So we get to regulate it. Now, the Constitution of the United States of America, and I'm getting on politics here, says that the federal government can only, and is the person who regulates interstate commerce, so that Pennsylvania cannot put tariffs on goods coming from Maryland, meaning they can't make it harder for Maryland goods to be sold in Pennsylvania than Pennsylvanian good. They can't, do this stuff. And the interstate commerce is regulated by the federal government. Well, it is possible that this small family garden thing, it's not some big industry thing, this small family operation, that it is possible that some of this fruit might get sold commercially out of the state after whoever this farmer sells it. So this farmer is like maybe selling it to a local grocery store chain or something like that. So there used to be a lot of these kind of things, or to a single grocery store or 2 or 3 independent grocery stores or whatever like this. Well, it's possible that grocery store buyer might sell it on to somebody else. So we get to regulate it. Well, this goes to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court under FDR accept that. So ever since then, basically all commerce, even if it only happens within one state, is regulated by the federal government since then. And you know what? Rules and regulations for this part of the United States and how you do things that make a lot of sense and made by farmers and agricultural people who know this part well. The rules and regulations up here, also apply to rules and regulations out here in the desert. That maybe the opposite is what should be done according to the rules and regulations, you know. And so just because it works and makes sense here doesn't mean it makes sense here. And whether that's, you know, how much you can, or the opposite, maybe it, you know, this may not have good ground soil here, so you can over farm it and make it go bad, or make sure there's probably some of the better places here, because we have the Dust Bowl that comes in. It's farming techniques that are good for either places like back here or good for in Britain, say, or France, which gets a lot more rain and a lot more situations. They've been using it for a few generations out here, and it creates the Dust Bowl, and it just goes all to hell. And because this is a different agricultural environment out here on the Great Plains. Good agriculture out here, but different. You need to do different techniques and need to set things up differently. So if you do regulations for here and you apply them to here, it's the wrong thing. But that's how our government works, and it's worked ever since FDR this way. And where it should be state by state regulations, they do it on a national basis. I know this is sort of my rant about that, sorry, but okay. So, and just to put it in a nutshell, and you can of course correct, you did change your approach. For example, the Autobahn helps the economy. Okay, yes, and before it made it worse. And I do appreciate that, Uncharted, and that you're changing things and you're taking stuff into advantage. And I agree that Keynesian economics, priming the pump, dumping, building munitions, having the government spend money building tanks. Well, tanks don't once you have them, don't really serve any economic purpose. Where building a truck probably will, make the nation a better economic situation. But so military Keynesianism over the long period does have a lot of negative effects. Now, of course, there's worse negative effects, as in losing a war and being conquered by somebody. That's worse than the negative effect of Keynesian economics. Because well into the 1960s is when you have, in America, you have President Kennedy, reducing down, because they keep on super high taxes in the United States for the richer people particularly, and richer corporations, to pay off war debt of World War II. And it's only the Kennedy administration that really starts lowering taxes back down post-World War II in serious, meaningful effects. And that's in the 1960s. So, and that is just because the U.S. wasn't bombed. The U.S. doesn't have to, we need money to rebuild our bridges like Germany or Britain may have had to do, because they all got blown up. No, there's none of that going on in America. So the money is basically to pay back the war bonds and other elements, and probably more than I know. But it's basically, of course, America is untouched by damages from the war, and it's not. And yeah, some of it I'm sure is paying for the VA and helping wounded soldiers afterwards, and there's some of that going on there. But most of it is just simply paying off the debt of the war, as well as paying for the Marshall Plan to help bail out Europe and other things that are going on. And yeah, that has negative economic consequences. I don't agree. It's just sort of the time frame scale is where my disagreement, and the effects of it. We have some dams, probably not the exact dams in Tennessee. Okay, well, let me read up the great book about factories in the Stalingrad area. Okay. Yeah. UK disbanded most of its Navy post-war. Absolutely Uncharted, because it couldn't. Yeah, War Sprite couldn't afford to maintain it. I mean, Britain basically goes bankrupt in World War I, but holds its empire together just enough. And had World War II not happened, eventually, just with modern weapons and explosive filtering into guerrilla movements in India, makes India unholdable long term as a unified group. They might have been able to hold out outposts. The idea of like Hong Kong's and Singapore's of India, that the local people will go, yeah, hey, this British rule is better than this other sort of Indian rule. We'll stick with these guys and help you root out. Britain could have maintained its empire longer and definitely could have maintained parts of its African empire in places like Singapore and Hong Kong much better had World War II not happened, but it's basically bankrupt in World War I, and World War II just puts the nail in the idea of a centralized empire for Britain. U.S. fought Japan in Alaska. Yeah, as well as... Oh, well, no, actually, no, they did not fight in Alaska. Japan invaded a couple of these islands up here. I don't know which ones on this map, but a couple of these islands here. And the U.S. came with a counter-invasion force, and the Japanese had already left. So there was no land-based fighting here. The Japanese did invade. It's just way out. Well, maybe I'm not sure. It's a couple, Kiska and a couple of the other little islands out here that they do invade. And by the time the Americans react to it, they've already the Japanese already left. Japanese invasion was mostly to try to pull U.S. resources away from, the fight down here. Kind of thing, not really to invade Alaska. It was just a spoiling attack to make the U.S. react. So yes, there is a U.S. invasion of U.S. territory, but then again, these islands basically had no infrastructure on them of any sort. I mean, there was maybe buildings, houses, locally built, but there's no like roads and railways and airports and whatnot on air bases on them. They also sold ships to other nations, for example. Yep, absolutely. They did that too, post-war, yes. Britain sold a lot of stuff off. Well, probably. Well, you remember, they did have the Dutch East Indies for a while and tried to hold on to it, which is a big economic boon for the Dutch. And they probably had some pretty good credit with the U.S. backing them to some degree. And they probably weren't that expensive. They might have bought them for what was essentially scrap prices. So yeah, the war is exhausting to everybody. So yeah, I guess to put it simply is, Uncharted and I just sort of disagree on how quickly or how much the economic damage was being done in the time frame of the game, not so much on whether there should or couldn't be economic damage to nations for doing these things. Post-World War II, and that is the reason behind a lot of the decisions made during the time, having the system represent, in my opinion, is essential. Yeah, you're not entirely wrong. I just, like I say, disagree a bit. Alaska wasn't as... Oh, absolutely not. You're right. Alaska and Hawaii were not states. They were territories at the time. Absolutely. Both those. They were 48 states during World War II. There was a very, very brief time that there was 49 states, but that was, I think, less than a month or so, because Alaska and Hawaii become states very close to each other. Yeah. The Beijing garrison, I believe, fought and was destroyed by the Japanese. I think the U.S. Shanghai garrison surrenders. I think that's what happens when they come in. But we're talking just a few hundred U.S. Marines that get stomped by the Japanese. Yeah, and I get you. I get you the idea of the snowballing. I really do. I guess to a point I look at as a point of Attu is the island had plenty of combat. The Americans had. Hello, Patchwork Pictures. I'm going to believe you on it. I thought there wasn't any operations. Maybe it was some other of the island, because there were several islands. One of them I know the Americans showed up and the Japanese had gone. Okay. I'll believe you. I'm because you're looking at facts and I'm not. I'm just trying to go off of memory and as I say, I always look stuff up because I'm just going out of memory and not looking up stuff, and I'm sure I get things wrong. Okay, it's Atu. Maybe it's Kiska or whatever is the one that the U.S. showed up and there wasn't anybody there. Because I know one of them, the U.S. brings a counter invasion force and finds the island abandoned. I know that happens in at least one case. I'm pretty damn sure. But yeah, okay, I'll believe you. I'm not going to argue with somebody who's able to pull up facts and figures because we've looked it up. So yeah, okay. So there was some action out on an Alaskan island up here, but obviously rather minor in the whole thing. Yeah, Kiska. I think that's it. That is just showed up afterwards. They had left. Maybe that I thought was the only one. And so I guess get back to. I read Albert Speer's book Inside the Third Reich when I was a late teenager. I haven't reread it really since. I've read bits and pieces out of it since. But I look at the German economy and what they were able to do under Speer. Now, some of that is Speer's doing. Some of it is just simply moving to total war, which they hadn't. Speer comes into, Todt dies in a plane crash. And Speer is promoted into Todt's place, just as Todt was sort of given the orders to go for total war. Just another little bit of history lesson. We're doing a lot of stuff because this is the live chat. Hitler's really worried about support from the German people for the war. So when they go to war for Poland, which is supposed to be just a war against Poland, they don't go into, they keep the civilian economy running. There is rationing, but they keep the civilian economy running. But of course, going into Poland triggers the war with, the French and the British. But they still keep the civilian economy running, though it's cut back. And so I look at the German production then, and it is only, and then it's one winter, and then that spring you get the collapse of France. Yeah, I know it lasts sort of into summer, but it's sort of the spring it collapses. And so, hey, most of the war is over. We've got Paris. Totenkopf's division is all the way down to the Spanish border down here. We've won. We weren't able to do this in World War I. Yeah. They're still bombing over London, and the British once in a while fly some bombers over some of us and bomb part of a city. And yeah, there's submarines out in the Atlantic. And yeah, that Mussolini guy, he's fighting off in North Africa. Way the hell off in North Africa. But hey, the war is mostly over. They continue the civilian economy. The Germans do. They actually stop production on things like tanks because the war's mostly over, and German industry and the German military at a certain levels think the war is mostly over, and yeah, we've got to get ready for the next war. It's going to be a while, so we don't need these old outdated tank models. We're going to build 2.0 tanks, so we don't need to continue to produce Panzer IIs. We don't need to produce these old Panzer IIIs. We don't need to produce these Panzer IVs. So they actually stop some of that production, not necessarily all of those models, but they actually stopped production on some of these models because no, cancel the orders, stop, no more. We don't need any more of these things. We're good. We're gonna figure out for the next war in 5 or 10 years what our new tanks are going to be. Now, of course, Hitler can't tell all these people, yeah, in 3 months or 6 months or whatever it's going to be, because it takes a while to sort of wind some of this down. We're invading the Soviet Union and kicking off another major war, because if he tells everybody, it gets leaked out. So they actually cut back on some of the military production late 1940, early 1941. Boom, kick off the invasion of Barbarossa. Hitler and the top crew think it's just going to be kicking in the door and the house of cards is going to collapse. And for a while it looks like that, because as German troops move into the Ukraine, as German troops move into the Baltics, even as German troops move through here, they're truly cheered in the streets, but particularly in the Baltics and the Ukraine. Ukrainians, of course, will be the ones that most come to regret that, but they're cheered, the liberators from evil, oppressive Stalin. And yeah, we might end up being under German rule, but it's not going to be any worse than Soviet rule, or even probably not any worse than Tsarist rule. We'll just have, new overlords, because it doesn't really matter whether our capital's in Moscow or Berlin. They're thinking. And so it looks like it's going to collapse. It isn't until that winter that the Germans realize they need to go to total war. The winter of 41 to 42, that sort of winter. That's when, sorry if I'm getting any of these dates wrong, but that's when Todt is already made armaments minister at that point, because before he had just been sort of construction minister, building highways, building the West Wall. They're building some fortifications to shoot across, some big naval guns, including eventually one battery Todt in this area. But they're not really building the Atlantic Wall, not like it comes to be. They're just building some fortification. That sort of organization Todt is doing. But he's put in charge of armaments production eventually, or just about this time. And really sort of, we've got to go to total war. He dies in an airplane crash. Speer's put in. Okay, so if you're comparing, and I know I'm going off on a tangent here, and it's not about Italy, because I know Germany better. So I look at this comparison of economy. So the economic quote-unquote miracle of Speer, and I've gone into before, and I'm not going to go into the details. Some of it is responsible because of Speer, but a lot of it is just simply going from pre-war sort of prep, because hey, the war ain't going to happen until 42 or 43. This is, we're talking 38, 39. War's long time off. We're doing some pre-war prep. We're doing mostly civilian economy, getting into the war, gearing up the war's going on, gearing up the German war economy, but we're still maintaining a significant amount of the civilian economy. It really isn't starting until functionally 42 is the start of the German total war economic measures. Really doesn't, I don't think, really gets into high gear until 43. So it's all that late. Okay. And yes, that total war kicking into that economy, even if you don't take into, bombing of Germany and other sorts of things that are causing massive disruptions to production, including taking a lot of potential workers off from being workers and sending them into the war, you have a lot of economic damage to the economy simply by going over to a total war economy. But I look at that, and then I sort of, look back from those sort of economic production figures and the economic production capabilities that Germany is able to achieve, sort of more or less starting in 42 through to late 44. Those are sort of the years. And then I look with all that economic buildup that Germany is able to crank out all those tanks, all that stuff during that time, fighters, subs, all that stuff, while being bombed to hell, while having all kinds of shortages. They can't, trade with the U.S. for resources. They can only, they can't trade, once the war with the Soviet Union, they can't trade with the Soviet Union. They're sucking every last little bit of oil they can out of Ploet Sea and nowhere else, sort of all that kind of stuff. And of course, during this time, they're also rapidly increasing the amount of synthetic fuel factories going on. They're doing all this kind of stuff. And I look back, they could have easily doubled or tripled the amount of military production in 1937, 1938, 1939, without a hell of a lot of difficulty. Germany could have done it compared to the difficulty that they did later on with, not being able, send freighters around the world to wherever they want to, having things, having so much personnel operating at flak guns, and there's huge amounts of personnel that are set up to deal with both during the bombing raids and after the bombing raids in all of these cities. Now, some of this personnel may also work in wartime industry of some sort locally and only, get called out when there's a bombing locally. But still, there's training going on. There's a lot of effort. I look at all this stuff and go, yeah, it wouldn't have been that hard to up Germany's military economy considerably for the time period without causing significant disruptions for what was going to happen. That's how I look at it. And it's sort of my analysis looking back, as opposed to, like, talked earlier about TIK and his really hard looking at published facts, published figures. And he does a really good job of that. But I'm sort of a little more freewheeling here, I'll readily admit, in my analysis. But I look back and go, yeah, they sometimes order 70 or 150 tanks of a particular model, because we want to get these tanks and drive them around for a while and see how they work, and then we'll once we get these and drive these guys around for a few months, then we'll order another batch that have changes. And so they get this batch of tanks, or partially done or whatever, and then but they could keep that factory running, and they could have had that factory running at a higher rate of production, but they don't, because they don't think they need it. Okay, well, there's two ways to look at this kind of war game that we're playing. One, at least two ways that I want to look at it. I mean, other people can look at it other ways, but two ways you can look at it is, one, how well could you do with what they had at the time? Okay. Can you do as well or better, or would you be worse? That is a very, very good way of looking at things. The one slight problem is historical events come into that play that are real historical events, but are somewhat artificial. Good example is the British build the Mosquito fighter. The Germans see it. It's zipping all over. It's a twin-engine, very fast plane. They shoot a few down. They look at it and they see, oh, hey, it's mostly built out of wood. Yeah. Hey, we could build one of these things out of wood, maybe, instead of the expensive aluminum. We'll keep clicking on the wrong thing here. Instead of this expensive aluminum, we could build a aircraft that uses very, very little aluminum. It'll use steel for its engines and a few key parts, the rest wood and fabric. Come up with a German version of the Mosquito. And so they design up a German version of the Mosquito. Still going to cost, still going to take away steel in engine production, which is a critical choke point for German aircraft is aircraft engine production. Still going to take it away from other possible aircraft that you could be making, but won't be taking away any aluminum, or effectively any aluminum, or so little it doesn't really matter, from other aircraft. So we can have this good twin engine type things that probably going to perform better than the ME or BF, however you want to say it, 110 or 4, and then the later 410. It's going to be sort of like that, and it's going to be sort of like our Mosquito. Yeah, great. Okay, get ready, get that going, and get this going, and I forget who the aircraft designer was, and get all this going, and then boom, 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 boom. There's a British air raid. I think it was British. It could have been American or both. I don't know. And they blow the factory up. The main guy who's designing it, and who designed or made the glue formula to glue the wood together, because you got to be able to glue the wood together to be able to make this, dies in that air raid. Oh, and the only known formula to how to make this glue that works, that can hold this aircraft, glue these wood parts together, because it's sort of like making a plywood kind of glue, but strong enough to hold this thing together. The only known copy of that formula is in that factory that just got blown up and is destroyed in the air raid. So there, poof, goes the German Mosquito. Now, I think they flew a few test ones. I don't really know how, if we have even good data, how well it performed, would have been as good as the British Mosquito or not. But that's just gone. Okay. How do you do that in a war game? Do you just say, oh, Germany doesn't get its Mosquito? because they wanted to, but that bombing happened. Well, what if in your war game had you invaded and taken Britain? What if you had better radar or whatever and to shoot enough of the airplanes down and they don't bomb that factory? Or what if you insist upon you have the Gestapo or Luftwaffe guy, Goering's guys come and knock on the door 10 days earlier. Yeah, make a copy of all of your plans for this airplane, which includes the glue formula. We're going to take this and take it back to Berlin just for the archives and the Luftministerium, the Luftwaffe ministry. We just want a copy of all that. Had they done that? And then boom, oh, okay, damn, we lost that factory. Well, good, we got all the stuff here, get it going in another factory. How do you play this what if you're just going to play with just the aircraft production that Germany had, just the tank production the aircraft Germany had? And this you find in games like Gary Grigsby's War in the East or something like that, that is just comes available, what is available for World War II. And so you might end up having more Panzer divisions at some time than Germany did have, because maybe they don't get destroyed in Stalingrad or something like that, that you don't make some of the mistakes, so you don't have some of the destruction that you have. Okay, that's one way to do war game design. It's a good way to do war game design, but as you can tell, for the grand strategy level, that is not the way I want to do war game design and not the war game I want to look at. And so long as you're doing this, so long as you have this, and so long as you have this with different factories, instead of maybe events that would spit out number of rifle factories, number of shipyards that can only make it. So yes, if they get destroyed, bombed, whatever, it reduces production, but otherwise you can only produce as many, rifles as they could possibly produce from the factories they had on hand. But once you add in the idea that I get to choose what to build, I get to choose in equipment, and I get to choose here, then we need to have reasonable, and I'm not saying it's more of a degree than a hard disagreement that I have with Uncharted here. So I don't mean to be slamming him. He's here and this is his mod, but I'm not really slamming him at all. But so I look back and now see, I don't know Italy as well. I can't make these like I'm sort of making the judgments on Germany about the situation. I don't think Italy was as industrialized and capable of handling stuff nearly that Germany was. And everything is a case by country, case by case basis. That's how I look at it. And so that's why I look back and see, particularly in the German warping the economy, in the time frame, in the roughly, especially in the pre-war sense, the 4 or 5 years before it, 10 years, the whole period is not that big of a thing. Sorry for the long lecture, everybody, and those watching later on. But that just, yep, you do give Germany credit. Yep, Germany does. Kiska was the island Japanese evacuated. Good, yes. Germany did very well for a broken country in the late 30s. Yes, Germany does do very well considering the situation they are in. Okay, fascist demagogue. Fascist gentleman. Where do we have... okay, infrastructure, civilian, aluminum, steel, that would be good. War industrialist, that would be good. But I want, guess we don't have somebody who's going to push up more. Political power game, backroom backstabber, ideological. Like I say, each of these countries are different. They're armaments factory, okay. Civilian military, but that's good. Quartermaster general. I guess we'll do this for the 5% political power gain, just to get that early and get that growing. calculate possible designs and do a prototype mechanism for specific companies might be cool if developed properly. Yeah, research is hard, people. And he definitely says might be cool if developed properly, and that's keywords there. Like your German mosquito, yes. Because there's a lot of gaps in at least generally available knowledge on World War II. Meaning the idea of going to a library, you know, or a bookstore or Amazon and finding a book that covers these things. There's lots of areas that there just isn't the knowledge on in that format. Now there might be knowledge in archives somewhere. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm just going, yeah. I just don't have access to it as a general consumer of knowledge, and you very well might exist in some archive somewhere, and that's again where like TIK and Military History Visualized, I know, also does a very good job at that, of going through the German archives and finding stuff. So it's not that it doesn't exist necessarily, though I do know, especially in Germany's case, lots and lots of stuff are destroyed in bombing raids. Lots and lots of stuff are burnt by the Germans, you know, burning documents at the end of the war. And the Soviets taking a bunch of stuff, and maybe even the U.S. that may have stuff that they haven't like publicly put out there. I don't know if there's much of the stuff and it just either is still classified or just nobody knows where it is, just because, hey, nobody cares enough to figure the thing out. And so there's a lot. E-Series tanks, yeah. Now, when you're talking a little more the E-Series tanks, I do believe they actually made a few prototypes of the German Mosquito. You can correct me either now or later if I'm wrong on that. Where the E-Series are, there's some little work done, but there's not like a completed tank to the best of my recollection of an E-Series tank. More of a design concept thing than a actual. Well, yeah, but we were talking, sorry, Martin Smith, we were talking about the Germans' version of a Mosquito. They were building I know what happened for a while. No, we got to do more steel. The Germans made a copy kind of thing. Chromium. Who do we want to buy chromium from? Sweden? Okay, that will definitely help us. Because now we can do this. And now we can do... Yeah, definitely the Marshall Plan. The Marshall Plan... Well, Marshall Plan is a non-violent warfare mechanism against the Soviet Union, meaning instead of having devastated populations that are screaming for communism to solve their problems, the U.S. was going to, I mean, there is truly a humanitarian, let's help the people out in Europe, but it is also, hey, let's make them, you know, successful and good so they're not susceptible to communism. But I also think the Marshall Plan helps transition the American economy away from building bombers to building other, you know, or artillery or whatever, to building other things into a civilian economy. So it does have a caustic effect on America, but it also helps out in a way. Thank you, Arno, again. Events like that during the game. Yeah, it's hard. And so how much do you want to force nations to make the mistakes of World War II?
Pronto.
That isn't as easy as it seems, because, and I haven't gotten into this, but let's come up. I want to make sure we grab a more standard Italian division here. Okay, this I think is, well, this is one of their, what is this here? Okay, light infantry, Division D, 14 in Livorno. I think, is that like a standard infantry division for Italy?
Comandi.
Yes, okay, so this is their standard division here, I guess is what they're saying. Again, I sort of hate doing this coming off of memory. Italy goes down to 2 brigades. It had been, I believe oh boy. Either it was a 4 brigade division or a 3 brigade division. I forget. But they go down to a 2 brigade division as a way to make more divisions. And you got to remember, a division isn't just the number of battalions within it. It's also the amount of support equipment, like artillery, within it. And by having more divisions doesn't just simply mean that you're cutting a unit, you're cutting the it's not that the army size doesn't grow, it stays the same. It actually, if you can fully equip the divisions and you have more divisions but fewer infantry battalions, but if, and again if, because I know it's not the case, but if you have the equal number of artillery in it, so you go to fewer of these but equal of these, by having double the number of divisions, you have a lot more artillery. And they also thought that this would be more flexible, because I think this is the later style that happens, or maybe it's happened by 36. But Italy finds out that this 2 brigade style, if you will, of division is too weak to sustain combat for a long time. Meaning it's going to, whether it's combat casualties or just simply getting tired in fighting, it's too weak. So eventually they stick on some fascist battalions into the 2 brigade divisions to sort of bring back up the overall infantry strength within them. And it's also sort of a loyalty thing. The fascist units were thought to be more loyal to the fascists than the royalist army. So they add back in. So how much do you want to force players to make bad decisions in your game? I don't know about that. And that is a key element. Do you want your players to be playing with the Africa Corps and the Italian Expeditionary Army, as it was in theory, sent down here? Now, of course, both the Africa Corps and the Italians were losing units or parts of units to submarine attacks. All the troops were drowned in the water, or the troops might be rescued, but all their trucks and tanks and artillery would end up at the bottom of the Mediterranean. So they were losing equipment. So what was sent and what actually got there are 2 different things. But even if you just want them to play, you just want that sort of Italian, or do you want to go, hey, well, I'm a smart Italian player, let's do this or that better. But still within the realms of Italian, because like I say, they changed the numbers of battalions, so it's not something that the Italians didn't consider, and that it was one way, they changed it to another way, and then they changed it to a third way. Again, some of my details are rough here, I know, because I didn't read up on this just beforehand. Some of the stuff I've read years and years ago now, but they're shifting back and forth. So how much do you want to force the player to make decisions that are not the best? That's a tough question in war game design. economics of the Marshall Plan spent on European countries was spent buying U.S. goods. Yeah, exactly, and paying back war loans benefited the U.S. very much so, and it's shifting the U.S. economy away from war production, making bullets and rifles, to making bullets and rifles for civilian guns or whatever it is that they're selling to the Europeans. Hello, Elite Sniper. How you doing? About the Type Heavy MG. Oh, the Italian. Yeah, the Italian machine guns were bad. Played games and games and they want to explore history. Yeah, I want to explore history, but again, I want to explore history within the realms of probability or plausibility, not, well, what if Martians landed? Or some, well, what if Hitler was a nice guy? Or what if Hitler liked Jews and had all the Jewish scientists working for him? Well, obviously that's not, the realities of the time period at all. So I want to do it within what was likely to happen. Develop the heel. Okay. So we've got this, which is developing the heel of the Italian boot. Okay, so this will help us with our industry. So I guess 35 days. We'll get to this. We're gonna push down here, at least to there. This is 140 days. We'll at least do the 35 day. Get more civilian factories going, which we're also building. We should be building civilian factories here. Get a good, solid economy going, which will allow us to build more military factories down the road. Unfortunately, I think base game Hoi 4 is more in doing the silly stuff. What if Germany, not Hitler, but what if Germany was the nice guy Germany and they had, the Kaiser back in power or other BS? That stuff I just don't like, don't care about. Let's move you guys, all of you, up to here so you cover in the range better. Air operational range is better there. Come on, Italy, you should have fallen by now. I mean, Ethiopia. And we got their capital. Only Selassie has fled.
Attento!
Yes, that was one of the things, or the one thing that I can point to, that Italy, the Beretta machine guns might not have been the best submachine guns of World War II. Now, they might have been. It depends on how you judge some of these things. But they definitely did a very good submachine guns in World War II. Because you can look at, the British did the Sten gun, it's just crude. The Thompson, it gets simplified and gets good, but it's sort of big and clunky. The Grease gun is okay. The PPSH, 41, and then there's the 43 with a stick magazine. Those are pretty good. Oh, good, yes. We're going to take all states. I'm not puppeting this in turn. I don't like this. I like parts of Iron 3 with sort of decisions to end these games properly. Okay, so we're going to need some time in rebuilding some of this industry, deal with repressive forces and whatnot. But I think we're going to end this episode here. I want to thank you all for watching. Thanks for liking the videos. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. See you next time for more, yes, even more Hearts of Iron. Okay, we'll make another episode coming up here just shortly. Let me make another save in case I hit the wrong button or whatever. So yeah, no, the Beretta machine guns were good. I just don't know how good or bad the PPSHs of the Soviet Union were. The German MP40 is okay. It's cool looking. We're all used to the Germans, you know, running around with it. But if you look at it, it's the distance between the trigger and where the magazine goes in, and that's where the, you know, forward of that is where the chambers are. It's really long. You can design the whole thing much shorter and easier. They have a really long operating rods and whatnot. You know, it's not bad, but it's not good. I mean, it's not quite the thing. I mean, it's cool, but it's just, you know, it's sort of the size of an assault rifle when it's a submachine gun. So, yeah, no, I like the Berettas. They did pretty good. Submachine guns. Like garrison units, small ones to protect your shores in Italy. Maybe, Yarno. A good idea. Yeah, it's just, do we have enough things like rifles to do that? And artillery and scout cars and so yeah, well, let's see here. We're going to grab all of is it control? Or is it shift? No, yeah, okay, shift. We're gonna grab all of the armor units. We're not gonna leave these down here. We're gonna move all of these to here. Right now, the rest, I guess, we're just gonna. Well, let me start another episode. Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745, and we're taking a look at the World Ablaze mod as we're playing Italy here for Hearts of Iron 4, and we're talking about all kinds of World War II topics with the chat. And we have just defeated Ethiopia, which really wasn't hard, just more time consuming than hard. Okay, so there's the mountain division. There's enough support artillery, I think, but these are Division Colonial Eritrea. These are your sort of occupation stuff. Decent for fighting partisans and things, but not going to stand up to much. Haile Selassie's speech, yeah, whatever. For all of the, oh, Haile Selassie, you know, yay, speech in the League of Nations and all that stuff. And yeah, he was a legitimate monarch, but he was as much of a despot as any of these sort of despots you can think of. I mean, he wasn't a totalitarian madman like Hitler or Stalin or somebody, but he wasn't like some champion of freedom and democracy or just general freedom. He was very much a partisan of his things. Okay, develop Sicily. German mutual assistance. Germany wants exclusive rights to the materials that we make. In return, they will allow us exclusive rights to their resources. Essentially, it's a win-win situation. Okay, trade relations with Germany, trade by that. Germany's trade relations with them. Okay, Italy accepts. No, thanks. Okay, good. Yes, okay, yes. So they're still using the trade relations. And we'll do that, I guess. And, okay, we've got this. Let's do prospect for oil. We want to do, how many long? 70 days. Okay. Just want to see if anything else is Doable. Okay, we could do this. Military modernization. That's a good idea, but I'm hoping to wait. Triumphant Africa. 56 days. One of the fun. True. East Africa is a public. Can we own it? Need more base, support political power, defend Yugoslavia, black recruitment, support the nationalists in Spain. This is 56 days. Ooh, okay. Well, I think we need to do this here now because we're coming to the Spanish Civil War and we want to be able to do that. So let's do that. Wasn't quite on my original sort of to-do list.
Pronto.
Yeah, let's also move these guys up to here.
Avanzate.
And I guess these guys.
Avanzate.
Really, Arno, the way, and not that we shouldn't have some garrisons, I mean, it's a good idea along the Italian coast, but the real way to defend the Italian coast is with air and naval power. Yeah, well, the machine guns sucked really hard, not the submachine guns. These two machine guns here. No, well, yeah, is this a Ravelli up top? No, I don't. This is definitely the Breda. Don't know what the Breda. I don't know the two different models of the Breda. The heavy machine gun was the Ravelli. Hoping I'm saying that right. Let's look over here. Research. They specify just the name. Sometimes it's convenient. Breda 30. Okay, I don't know. Yeah. I started looking like the Ravelli machine gun, which was a water-cooled machine gun, was Italy's primary sort of heavy machine gun of World War I and II. And it worked okay, but I'm not exactly sure why it needed it, seeing as no other nations needed it. But it had a little sort of brush on the side of the machine gun that as the ammunition goes into the machine gun, it sort of coats it with a little bit of oil. So there's like a little oil reservoir above it, hope I'm getting all this right. So there's a little bit of a brush on it. So as the bullets go into the machine gun on the machine gun belt, it oils them up so it runs smoothly. You know, and I don't know how important that was to the functioning of the gun, meaning if it would jam up or not if you didn't oil the bullets as they go in. But there's something out there, and I know a few of you have encountered this once or twice, but there's actually really, really a lot of it out in North Africa called dust. And oil attracts dust. And oiled bullets going into a machine that has attracted dust isn't going to be very good for the working of your machine gun. That was sort of the big problem with the Ravelli. Its desire for oiled rounds. The big problem for the Breda light machine gun, this thing sort of down here, is that it has a fixed, and I know I've gone into a rant on this on my Hearts of Iron 3 Italian series and gone into it, is that it has a box magazine on the side, sticking out of the side of the machine gun. Box magazine that holds 20 rounds. And you hit a button and there's a swivel comes up and that box magazine opens up. You can't take the box magazine off the gun, but it just opens up, and then you can put 4 sets of 5-round stripper clips in it, and then close it, and then you fire 20 rounds, and then it opens back up, and you put in 4 more sets of 5-round, stripper clips in. So when everybody else is dry magazine, like the ZB-26, which is the forerunner to the Bren gun, the Czechs used and the Germans later used, is very good. It's almost as good as a Bren gun. They use 20 round box magazines to go in the top, but once that magazine is empty, they take it out and they stick a fresh one in. And then somebody can have a little loader thing, that the bracket that they put over, and start loading. You know, if you have one of the guys sitting behind the gun, can be putting in the 4 stripper clips of ammo, loading that back up, ready to hand it back up if that's it. But they can have a box, literally. One of the ways they just really had like an ammo can with, like, I don't know, 8 or so boxes of 20 round magazine, so that for a while at least they can quickly swap out the ammunition. Now the Breda light machine gun wasn't very good operating anyways as a light machine gun, but hey, it was Italian designed. And it had design flaws, fundamental design flaws. So yeah, it really does suck, as Arno saying. Oh, call me. We're just going to stick with that. Yep, it's raining for me too. You're in California, if I'm not mistaken. It is really raining right now. No, the Breda. Well, I'm not saying there isn't a Breda heavy, because there were some heavier Breda machine guns. I'm talking about the one in the bottom is the light bipoded one. The common heavy machine gun for Italy was the Ravelli. And remember, Italy is using all of its World War I, if you want to call it surplus or leftover weapons. It really wasn't surplus through World War II. So all of the rifles that they have left over from World War I get reused. All their artillery gets reused. Everything. Nope, Europe. Oh, okay. Well, just maybe because I thought, I know you've been around before. Maybe just presumed. Because it is raining for me here in sunny Southern California. It is raining. But then again, it is winter. We rain in the winter a bit. Okay, we got our armored formations up here. Let's send them. We don't need the attrition. Yeah, we'll send them up to Genova or Genoa. Bosnia. Yeah. This part of the world. Sorry, I don't know the exact borders of modern day Bosnia, whether it's this or something like this, but yeah, I know it's here.
Pronto, signore.
I'm going to keep moving out a few divisions at a time, because I don't want to completely right away remove so many divisions that we start getting a lot of upright, or, well, you see, we're already starting at where we get. Okay, let's move some of these divisions. Okay, well, those guys can maybe go north. Let's move some of these guys out here to the Ogden Desert, which is really sucks, and I don't know. Guess maybe there would be a factory up there. Map designers and who's responsible for the. Why attach Ogden Desert? Okay, this plains. No, well, this is desert, people. This is desert. The Ogden Desert out here. These 3, if not 4 here. This is desert. This ain't no plains. That's desert, unless global warming hadn't happened yet, and and that's yes, what I'm talking about. But in World War II, it hasn't changed that much. It's the freaking desert out there. Yeah, it's pouring outside right now where I am. Pouring rain. Okay. Yeah, I guess you can come up to here also. Get ready to deal with the French. Okay, now, it was sometime. Oh, okay, Spanish Civil War breaks out. It was sometime, but after the defeat of. But it wasn't that long. It was after the defeat of Haile Selassie and the Ethiopians that the embargo against Italy is lifted. It's sort of like, oh, didn't work. Okay, they really don't want to make Italy out to be some, untouchable bad guy in Europe because they want to, as part of the, let me buy some from Czechoslovakia, some steel. End up in German use eventually, the factories. Oh, they're over there. I have a cousin living. Okay, so we designed a new aircraft. Let's look over here to see static oil experiments. I think we may wait on that. We'll do radios. No problem. Just do your best. I'll try to interpret. Let me ask for clarification. On people's English, certainly.
Pronto all'azione. Comandi. Formazione.
For all the power Mussolini wanted the fascists to have, there is considerable. I mean, they didn't have nearly the power they talk about in their fascist ideology. This isn't anything but talking about the realities of what's going on versus what they want to do is have the sort of corporatist socialist state that Mussolini envisions, but he's never quite able to get the power that he thinks he should have. Speed this up a little bit because we're no longer fighting a war. Okay, well, I mentioned that. I just changed my mind here. Let's see. We should be fighting a war. We're in another war. Okay, send volunteers. How many can we? You have 0 divisions as a volunteer force. Maximum total limit is 1. Oh. Now, I don't know right away at the very, very, very beginning of the war, this early, but eventually they get to at least 3 proper divisions and then some other battalions and brigades. I think it's right about that. Okay, well, let's look at this. Some cavalry, some infantry, some light tanks. Do we have? I probably would have had Italo Balboa as better general than 2. Mountaineer. Well, he's my armored officer, so we're going to actually. Well, let's What kind of condition is this division in?
Sì, signore. Pronto, signore. Formazione. Ordini?
Unassign? Yes, we want to unassign all of these units. Okay, and then we want to come back
Pronto,
over
signore.
here. And we
Formazione.
want to unassign all of these units.
Ordini?
Okay, basically, you're being left with one unit.
Ordini?
So you're my best commander. And so we're going to... Let's again send volunteers. Yes, we're going to send air volunteers, and we're going to send that division. Triumph in Africa, great. Okay, so we can do this now. We'll gains volunteers in Africa, any of Italy. Conquer Spain, demand Balearic Islands. Well, we're going to do this. 30 days.
Formazione.
We'll reorganize things after the Civil War here. It's done. Well, don't know that we're going to do repair speed, especially. Get that higher up. We'll be able to help repair other things. Okay. Oh, we have a lot of political power. I've been neglecting. Okay. Let's do Captain of Industry, because we're still sort of building civilian factories. And we are going to be building some more of that, but factory output by 10%. That's good. Are we going to do much? No, not a lot of. No, I don't know if we get to radar. Let's just get factory output up higher. That will help. Oh, why didn't you play Germany? Because I've been playing Germany a lot. Unpronounceable Korean name. Sorry, I do believe that's Korean. And Arno wanted Italy, and I thought that's a good idea. We'll be playing as Germany again in the future for sure, but right now we're playing as Italy. Oh, sorry to hear you're losing friends because of it. Yeah, it's a terrible, terrible thing. It is not just, I mean, that's sort of the worst thing, of course, is the deaths of people, but it's oppressive even beyond just that. So let's have just a bit excavation. Okay, so we got that. We're still in, well, late-ish, 36.
Ordini?
Oh, we have more. Naval. Let's prepare. I want to build. Now, do we have navies that naval ships that can lay sea mines? No, we didn't want to actually do that. Cancel, cancel, cancel. Okay, let's, I guess, come in here and look at this path to look at our ships here. Okay, anti-air, max range, production, depth charge. Where do I see sea mines? I don't see them here. No, I do not know. Okay, frigates, destroyers, cruisers. Let's... The Italians did a fair amount of mine warfare, so I know they did it. I know that sometimes they were doing them off of very small boats. I mean, there's in the point of 3 or 4 mines might capsize the freaking boat, but they were often putting them around coastal regions that you don't need a big ship to do what they were looking at. Yes, you see depth charges. I don't know if they're just mines aren't, I'm missing them, or they're just not there because they're not there. And no, I do not know Italian naval models at all. Okay, well, didn't see any destroyers with mine. Yeah, they do have some good ships. I just want to spew mines out into the Mediterranean in large batches. I don't see mines there, like cruisers. Are we down at frigates that are doing them? For the Italians? Maybe. Or maybe we just don't have them here. Or I'm not scrolling down far enough or something to see. Okay, well, I'm not seeing mine layers. Too bad. Okay, the electric tech branch. Okay. Well, it does have contact mines here, and here that are researched. So it doesn't have magnetic mines. Would be good to research. So I don't know. Would it be heavy cruisers? So I know they did do mine warfare. I'm specifically remembering a couple of photos of some stuff that they were doing with them. Oops. Like boats, things. Maybe just not added here, or I'm just missing it in all this stuff. Okay, well, I guess we'll produce some destroyers. What does this class look like? Okay. Torpedo attack pretty decent, I guess. I don't really remember. Okay, we'll do some of the Mistrale class then. Okay. Over to production. Yips. There we go, Mistrale class. Get those going here. And now we can do another set of them. Oh, am I missing something here? Put it on the Navy design on the production tab. Can we create a variant or here? Okay, oh well, that's showing the Zero has mines equipment. So hello, Sumandale, how you doing? I mean the variant. Okay, well, well, let's trash these then, because we haven't produced much, nothing lost. So let's see about everything here. Let's come here, create a variant. All right, guess I'm sort of used to black ice. Mine warfare, there we go. Mine rails. In which everything is sort of well, we don't have any Navy experience, so we can't do that yet. Damn. This is what Hey Uncharted, if you're still watching, why don't you give every nation some starting experience? I totally agree with the idea of because Podcat, I don't know if he designed this element, but he explained it to me long ago, is that armies, and it's particularly focused on armies, only change, they don't they only change as they get more, his explanation is that each division isn't different. They sort of have a standard formula, and they only sort of change as experience happens. Yeah, well, experience, they should have some experience. They don't start with zero experience. This isn't day one of the Italian Navy. So I agree with the idea that we shouldn't willy-nilly just constantly do things without that, but you might want to look at adding, so we'll just put in some standard ones for the moment until we can make a variant. But they should have some starting naval experience and air experience and army experience. Of course, Italy gets a bunch of army experience during Ethiopia and then now, but in Spain. Okay, support national Spain. Very good. There we go. Hopefully that will. Now we're going to come back over here. Dave, we'll do this. I think. Okay. Italian Panther Division, you attack there. Pursue, pursue, keep going. Okay, well, unless we just have attrition because we're out in the desert or rough terrain, whatever, but yeah, that's the way a lot of people. I'm playing with World Ablaze mod. That's it. Yeah, no, I have to upgrade them manually or whatever, send them back, get through the production line. But better to be building something than not. I think so. We should be sending some air units. Well, let's see, what do we have here? Okay, some fighters. Can we send in? I don't know how many. Okay, fighters and some. Let's send in. We can. Those are just 11. These 32. Wow, these guys took some bad damage down here. We're not building anymore. Okay, well, let's send these guys up to Spain if we can. How big of an air force we can do? Nope, not that big. Okay. 24 fighters? Yeah, there we go. Or bombers, I should say. Okay, you come up here and shoot down things. You bomb military units. They're in low supply, they're encircled, they're not doing well. And Giovanni is kicking butt, it looks like. You blew up the Suez Canal and clear the Mediterranean Sea from UK ship. What are we doing about? Yeah. We do want to close that down. Basic industry, good. Okay, that will be helping us out. Yeah, we could do magnetic mines. And let's come over here. And let's see, factory camouflage. Production efficiency. I really don't need to camouflage my factories yet, so we'll wait on that. Okay, better wages, mandatory army service, conscription. Stability, factory output, damage, better wages. Well, I guess we'll try that for now. Might reduce down our manpower a bit, but we can change it. Hopefully we get nearer to the war. Yeah, I just don't trust the AI to not take these out, so I'm gonna... Yes, we have air volunteers. Right there. Near our limit, I believe. Yeah. No. Yeah, we could only have a few more. But we're losing those already, so we're not going to send more right now.
Si, signore.
What, are these guys solo because we're on a truck? Maybe. Thank you, Arno. Thumbs up in a stream does really help. Those watching later on YouTube, liking videos helps the creator out, also helps you out, that YouTube will likely recommend more from that creator, and also more of similar types of videos, however it figures it out, whether it's Hearts of Iron 4 or just strategy video, gaming videos, or whatever. Their algorithm is a mystery to us, but thank you very much, Seaman. It really helps to get the subscriptions and the likes. I really do appreciate that. Oh, come on, get there in your little CVs. And attack Bilboa. Have the Germans sent any forces? Do we see any German forces? It doesn't look like it. No Condor Legion? How are we doing for rifles? Okay. Oh, we actually have a positive amount of rifles. Not of artillery yet. So we're going to wait a little bit for... We don't have a lot of extra manpower, but we'll wait a bit for... trying to recruit more divisions. Radios, yay! Okay, well, we're in November, but probably we'll wait on that and we'll get going with that soon. Do we do radar as Italy? Probably should. Well, I think we're gonna wait on new aircraft designs. Yep, let's push ahead on this. I know it's just a little bit. We'll get that production up and going. Yeah, we will. We'll get to naval bombers. Okay. Now we're going to go for prospect for oil. And okay, we'll add in another production line of destroyers. Maybe I should be doing submarines, I don't know. Well, I think we're going to end this here. I want to thank everyone for watching. I really do appreciate all of you guys so much. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron. And those watching on YouTube and Twitch live, I think I will end this here now. I will be playing, and you're all invited to come and play with me tomorrow. We're going to be doing War Thunder, playing some of that. So you're invited to come. It's a free-to-play game, obviously, if you know about it. Squad up and have some fun. I know Arno will be there, at least I hope he will. Yep, you're very welcome, Arno. So we'll be playing some War Thunder. Tomorrow, at 8 a.m. Pacific time. So, I don't know if Arno wants to. What's the time I normally start in Europe? If it's 8 a.m. here, when am I starting in Europe? Arno? Five. That's, I guess, 5 p.m. he means. So yeah, approximately. Yes, so 5 p.m. So yeah, so you guys tomorrow, and if you don't have a War Thunder account, you can sign up and get it. It's all free, and at least some of the time, you can come and play, and we will. You can also get Discord, get set up in Discord, and we'll post invites so that you can chat with us if you have Discord and all that kind of stuff. So, yep, get Discord set up. Get a mic set up, headphones, that kind of thing, and we'll play at least some. I mean, I don't know how many we'll be playing, so maybe just a few matches, maybe most of the time. So, okay, cool. British tanks, cool. We can be some British or allies, because a few players will probably just have American. But yeah, that'll be cool. Call me. We'll definitely have you join us tomorrow. So just get set up with microphone, Discord, and all that, and we'll put up the Discord invite if you're not already there. So that, and Thursday of next week, I will be streaming for Slytherin Order of Battle, and Friday we'll be back to more War Thunder. So thank you, everyone. See you then, hopefully. Oh, good. Arno's already putting that up there. You can join the Discord server. Thanks so much, everybody.